Hello everyone, welcome back to My Hero Academia Podfics. Today will be the continuation of Eri and Deku's story time. This will be chapters 4 through 7, the rest of this fic, and I hope you guys enjoy these as well. Chapter 4. One Body for All the Scars. Deku, does the quirkless boy have scars? Izuku has been regularly taking care of Eri, and this does not go unnoticed by the Eraser Mike family, who has been arranging these meetings over the last 3 weeks. Sometimes it's after school hours, sometimes it's during the lunch break, and sometimes it even includes times like these where Eri wakes up from nightmares at 5 a.m. and Izuku is always awake and ready to invite her to his dorm room for coloring sessions. What Eri didn't know, and she doesn't need to know, is that her presence has equally helped Izuku distract his mind away from his own nightmares that continuously torment the very hours of rest that he has forced himself to get. Telling the younger girl a version of his personal story gave him an outlet to work at some of the pain and stuff that he had ignored for so long out of habit and lack of time. As long as the student sent his homeroom teacher a message about Eri's whereabouts, Aizawa-sensei never minded in Izuku's early hour hangouts. The route from the teacher's dorms to the 1A dorms is the safest compared to all the other student dorm buildings, and Shota hopes that spending time with Eri can decrease the amount of time his problem child spends on training hours where people are supposed to lay in bed. During times like this, the hero-postered walls in Izuku's dorm room are once again welcomed with the familiar sounds of paper and pencil, along with the occasional murmurs between the little girl and her favorite hero student. "He does, Eri. The quirkless boy has scars," Izuku replied with a bittersweet smile at the irony of the situation. "Does he have, like, one scar, or does he have many scars like me?" "Many, many scars, Eri," Izuku breathed out, repeating it to himself melancholy. "So many scars." "And even I can't see them all," he thought to himself. "Oh," Eri paused and pondered before continuing. "Then have you seen the quirkless boy's scars?" "Of course, Eri." "Then do his scars look ugly, like mine?" Izuku doesn't know why he was momentarily surprised at her question. He knew more than anyone how hideous his scars can feel, and it means that Eri is bound to have similar perceptions on the rough patches of her own skin. However, Izuku would do anything he can to prevent Eri from wasting years of childhood struggling with insecurities due to her scars, so he tells her the one sentence he tells himself whenever he looks at his arms and legs, or uses makeup to cover finger-shaped abrasions on his neck. "Scars are not ugly, Eri." "Even if there's many, many scars?" "Oh, Eri," he chuckled endearingly, "especially if there are many, many scars." "Oh," the girl said again, and she made a conflicted hum as Izuku saw the internal conflict through her eyes. "Do you want me to tell you about the quirkless boy's scars?" he offers. Eri opened her mouth before closing it again, eyebrows furrowed. "Is it okay to tell me, Deku?" she asked skeptically. "I would feel weird and angry if someone talked about my scars without me knowing." "He knows I'm telling you this. He tells me about all his scars anyway, Eri," Izuku replied, mentally giving himself a pat on the back for patching the slight error. He's getting better at this. "Do you?" Eri's shaky voice paused as Izuku noticed the girl wincing and probably thinking of her past experience. "Do you want to know about my scars, too?" This is one of the cons of introducing Eri to someone she can relate with, Izuku thought. He had expected her to imitate some of the mannerisms that he told Eri in his stories, like writing and talking to himself. He might need to apologize to Aizawa-sensei about the second one, though. Izuku scoots closer to the little girl and pats her on the head as he reminds her with a warm and reassuring tone. "Just because the quirkless boy tells me about his scars doesn't mean you have to, okay? You don't have to tell anyone anything you don't want to, Eri." He pauses before adding, "We don't want to go back to a bad place in your head, do we?" "Right. The bad place in one head." It was a phrase that Izuku had learned through Eri's chatters about her therapy. He didn't want to introduce Eri to the term panic attack yet, but because the negative connotations that the word gives him, calling it the bad place seemed less intimidating, and it also didn't remind him of the countless times that he had had to hide in a bathroom or behind some bushes to calm down when no one else would. "Then I still want to know if the boy's scars are ugly like mine, Deku," Eri insisted. "Scars are not ugly, remember?" "But sometimes they feel ugly, like today. You know, maybe the quirkless boy didn't tell you about that, but sometimes scars just feel ugly, even when people say they're not." Eri returned with a chastising tone that reminded Izuku of Recovery Girl, when she lectured Izuku about using makeup on his scars. Exposure of chemical components to partially healed skin cells would accumulate into detrimental effects on your skin in the long term, boy. You have to wait until a full recovery is made. He remembered from one of his most recent healing sessions. He did say something like that. Izuku drifts off. They do sometimes feel ugly, especially the ones around the arms. He has them on his arms, too. Eri's excited voice snaps Izuku back to the girl's sparkly, cherry-colored eyes. Yeah. Do you want to see it? Well, not that you have to. I mean, if you don't want to. I want to see. I want to see him, came the reply that Eri was practically buzzing with childlike anticipation. Oh, well then. Okay, wait a minute. Izuku leaned back and stretched towards his study table, grabbed his phone and placed it into Eri's hands after a couple of flicks. All the energy emanating from the girl immediately dissipates when Eri places and sees a picture of an arm littered with scars. The image only shows the arm, no head or torso visible, and so she's unable to determine who the scarred arm actually belongs to. It was an image Izuku took of one of his most recent sessions with Recovery Girl when Yue's resident grandmother and nurse voiced her concerns about the intensity of chronic pains from the increased amount of scars throughout his body, especially around the arms. Izuku doesn't know whether Eri's silence is a sign of fear, disgust, or simply shock, so he continues softly with a pained smile. He never had experience talking about this to someone else. Sometimes his hands went to his arms as he caressed the familiar course of surface on his rough skin through his sleeves. Sometimes, in very, very bad days, he couldn't stare at himself and would break and throw away the mirrors in his house, because those scars feel like the ugliest things cursed to his body. Izuku expected the silence and braced himself to calm the possibly frightened little girl. What he didn't expect was Eri snapping back to him, bewildered with a tone of disbelief. "No way!" Eri flashed the phone screen to him and pointed to the image as if trying to prove a point. "But they're so pretty, Deku." "Pretty?" "Uh-huh." She nodded furiously. Like paintings. His scars are like paintings on his arms." Izuku smiled at the compliment before replying softly, "Well, it doesn't stop him from wishing that the scars would float away and disappear. Like you said, Eri, there are just some days where they feel ugly no matter what." "So, even when they are this pretty?" "Even if they are this—" Izuku paused because of how foreign the word felt on his lips. "Pretty." Then the white-haired girl is quiet again, deep in thought, and eyes flickering back and forth from the image on his phone to her arms. Izuku decided to drive the point back home and made her come to the conclusion that was the point of this whole thing. Do you think your scars are ugly, Eri?" A nod, so Izuku continues. "Can I know why?" Because the way I get them, Deku. The way I get them is ugly." Flashes of his middle school years, the neighborhood children, one for all, muscular, they all bubbled to his mind, and no, stop it, Deku, he chastised himself. "It makes you go to a bad place in your head," he acknowledged. "Mm-hmm. I think there's something about them that makes them pretty, though." "Huh?" Eri's head tilted in a genuinely innocent confusion and questioning tone. Izuku would ruffle her hair at such an adorable sight if he wasn't too distracted to the point of not realizing the following couple words he says. "Do you want to know why the boy has scars, Eri?" "Yeah, why?" "Because he can't control the quirk." "But the boy is quirkless, Deku." "Oh, well," he gulped and convinced himself that he can salvage this. He borrowed someone's quirk." "He can?" "Well, the person who lent it to him can. He taught this quirkless boy how to use the borrowed quirk." "Ugh, sorry, All Might Sensei," he thought, not realizing that it left his mouth in a soft, sheepish mumble. "Why does it make scars, then?" Eri asked. Izuku gestures. "Whenever the quirkless boy uses it, the borrowed quirk, it makes scars on his arms. You know how painful and ugly things are when you get the scars, right?" "Oh, you're right, Deku." Eri nodded determinedly. She needs to know stuff about the boy if she wants to remember his hero, right? "Well," Izuku continues with the words that he constantly chants to himself, "I think the fact that he has scars shows that he got through the pain, no? Just like you did?" The younger girl seems convinced. "Doesn't that make you feel amazing?" He then gestures animatedly. "People with scars should be proud because it shows that, hey, I felt many bad things and went through ugly things, but I'm here now, right?" "Right. You're right, Deku." Izuku smiled at the joyful tone and brightening eyes that replied to him. Now, time to conclude this, he told himself. So, he dragged on, the scars that you have are pretty, are they not? Yes, Eri nodded and added without hesitation. The boy scars are too. Izuku doesn't know whether the buildup of tears in his eyes was because of that statement or the dry eyes from staying too long in an air-conditioned room. It's probably the first option, but he'll just convince himself it's both. Patting Eri's head one more time, he then altered the conversation topic only slightly, though. You know, Eri, there's something the quirkless boy does whenever he feels his scars are ugly. Papa, Eri started at one of her cuddle sessions with the voice quirk hero before bed. Yes, sweetie? So, Deku told me there are special marker pen things that you can use to draw on skin. Did he? Yeah, Deku told me they're special because normal ones can hurt my skin. Hisashi is thankful that his princess's idol is a cautious one like Midoriya. He can't imagine the horror he and his husband would find if Eri idolizes Shota's other students. The last thing they need is for their daughter to turn into a mini version of Todoroki Shoto and his daddy issues, God forbid. Tokiyami Fumikage, there's enough potential emos in the family already. Or Kaminari. At least Midoriya's injuries are not because of his own idiocy. Don't even get him started on Bakugo. That's right, Sweet Pea. Can you buy me those pens for my next birthday? You don't have to buy another gift for Christmas, and I'm okay with no plushies this year, so... No man is perfect, I guess, Hisashi thought, as his little girl has definitely picked up on her idol, or hero crush, mumbling habits. He's so teasing Sho about this later on, once his husband finishes his late-night patrol. Whoa, sweetie. We'll buy them tomorrow, okay? There's no need to wait that long, and Papa still wants to buy you a plushie anyway, okay? So adorable. Hisashi cooed at how Eri's ruby orbs were twinkling. So sweet. Really? You betcha we are. Then when we get home tomorrow, can you draw pretty things around my scars? It was the day after his most recent talk with Eri, and Izuku was fidgeting nervously during his healing session with Recovery Girl. About my decision a couple days ago, he began. I've changed my mind. I'm keeping these. He motioned to his arms. Oh? The elder lady raised her eyebrows and glanced at him. You were so sure to do the surgery, boy. Is it the money? I was going to tell you that the dermatologist and I will use our personal funds. You're not paying it back, hon. No, it's not the money. So? Izuku looks away slightly, playing with the bag of gummy bears in his hands. Maybe there could be a day when I see them as, pretty? If Chiyo's eyes were watering when he said that, only the crumpled flyer about surgical scar removal and Nezu's security cameras were the witnesses. Dear Deku's friend, the brave boy, this is Eri again. I'm learning how to write letters for you, okay? I heard from Deku that you have scars. It's okay, because I have scars too. It feels ugly sometimes, but drawing sparkles around them really makes them feel less ugly. Deku told me you also do that. When I met you and your friend, and Koda too, he's not mean like the other people you know. I promise. I want to show you that the glitter pens my papa and dad bought for me and make your scars look pretty too. Does the friend you borrow quirks from draw your scars? This is how I would draw the scars around your arm too. Deku showed me the picture. Your scars are so pretty. On the bottom of the paper, a childish rendition of a familiar scarred arm and heart shapes and stars around each scar. Eri stares at her most recent work in satisfaction, stores the letter in her little box with her other gifts for the boy, and continues her plans for the hero costume on a new piece of paper. Chapter 5. The Bad Place in One's Head. Progress is never linear, especially when it comes to mental health. Panic attacks are rare for Eri now, but it doesn't stop it from sneaking up on the little girl every once in a while. Early this morning, a furniture company advertisement for a massage chair. It was what caused the Erasermite couple to spend several moments calming the hyperventilating child down. It ended with Eri crying to sleep due to fatigue caused by her attack. When the girl woke up a couple hours later, Hisashi suggested cheering her up by letting her see Midoriya, knowing very well the positive effects that the hero students present had on her. This is why Izuku is currently sitting next to Eri in the teacher's lounge instead of being in the 1A class. The first couple of class periods mostly contained classwork and no lectures, so Aizawa deemed it fit to drag Izuku out of the class and push Izuku to his daughter, who immediately brightened up once she sees her familiar green-haired idol. Now Eri seems to be busying herself with drawings and writing letters. I want to send them to the boy all at once, okay, Deku? Is what the girl had told him. While Izuku finishes up another of his class work assignments, Every once in a while, Eri would ask a random question about the boy, who Eri insisted is not quirkless anymore, and Izuku would answer accordingly. Ever since the last conversation about scars, Eri keeps on asking questions about him. They're relatively simple, but Izuku won't lie that some of them did make him stumble on his words. Like, what's his favorite color? Easy, red. Favorite food? Also easy, katsudon. What does he like to do? Write in his notebooks. Like you, Deku, Eri had asked. I taught him how to do it, Eri, was Izuku's stuttered answer. On the other hand, Izuku had been getting better at deflecting Eri's questions by answering half-truths and omitting certain parts that are dead giveaways. Call it a guilty conscience or his reckless sense of responsibility, but it just feels wrong to lie to an innocent child for no apparent reason. And before anyone asks, no, Izuku's own issues never qualify as a reason to lie to a 7-year-old. Deku? Yes, Eri? Izuku glanced away from his work. You know, I went to the bad place in my head just this morning. Izuku can somewhat predict where this conversation is going, as he was briefed beforehand about how the situation is most likely going to lead to a chat about how Eri feels her most recent panic attack was. Oh my, he paused before asking. Do you feel better now, though? I'm feeling okay now, but... Eri hesitates. But it was really weird. What was weird? The way I went there was weird. Eri gestures and tries to explain. Like, I saw a chair, and then everything went bad. Izuku concluded that Eri was probably unsettled by how mundane the trigger for her panic attack seems. He could definitely relate to that. After all, if it weren't for the psychology textbooks that forced him to study during middle school, he would probably maintain the level of insecurity he has on panic attack triggers. That's pretty normal, though, Izuku pointed out. It's not always the big things that make you go there, Eri. Sometimes it's the little things. It usually doesn't make me go there, but it did today, Eri trailed off. And that's normal, too, he reassured. Does the boy ever go to the bad place in his head? Was Eri's next question before she added. Because of the little things, maybe? This is also a new aspect of the two's conversations. Eri would ask whether the boy, Izuku himself, had experienced similar things to Eri in an attempt to rationalize the things that happen around her. For example, she would ask whether the boy has nightmares like her, or whether the boy has to brush his teeth before bed and eat vegetables during dinner even when they're yucky. He does, Eri, Izuku answered. He goes there a lot. Also because of big things, and many, many small things. Illogical, stupid things, his mind supplied. If you and the boy are okay with it, Eri stated, can you tell me what makes him go there? Izuku tried to steady his voice before continuing. Many things, Eri. Both big and small. I don't mind, do you want to listen about it? Eri nodded politely. I want to listen, please. Well, he started. I guess most weird reason would be... He paused before admitting. Adults? Midori Izuku, he chastised himself mentally. You know better than to call panic attack triggers stupid in front of Eri, even when yours are. Adults? He tilted her head. Yeah, he elaborated. People don't really notice it, though. He would, get really scared when he sees adults. So the boy only sees kids? No, actually, Izuku corrected sheepishly. He has to, live with it. I mean, he still has to see adults every day and stuff. Even when he's scared of them? Well, yeah. Eri ponders. Can I know why adults make the boy go to the bad place in his head? She then reasoned. You know, because, Dad, Papa, and Hound Dog Sensei are nice adults. I was scared of adults, too, but now I'm not scared of nice adults. Here goes nothing, Izuku thought. So, I once told you about how everybody's kind of mean to him, right? When he receives a nod from Eri, he continued. Well, at your age, adults are also, part of the mean people. Well, Eri, who would you go to when someone's mean to you? Well, I can go to Dad, to Papa, to Hound Dog Sensei, Auntie Namuri. Eri trailed off and concluded. Any people. Dad says it's okay as long as they're Papa's or Dad's friends. That's right, Eri, Izuku said, and then he continued his line of reasoning. Well, the people you go to are all adults, right? Oh, right, Eri answered in realization. You're right, Deku. All of them are adults, actually. Well, if someone is mean to the boy, who should he go to? An adult? Eri trailed off as she starts thinking. But everyone's mean, Izuku reminded, including the adults. Oh, wait, Eri stiffened. So, The adults are mean to him, even when he needs help. Yes. One of Izuku's arms wrapped around himself in an attempt of self-comfort. And even when he tries to ask for help, what the adults did instead was, They get meaner, Deku. Izuku couldn't hold back a shudder as specific memories began to flash in his mind. I need a Band-Aid, please. 6-year-old Izuku had stuttered. Liar, Midoriya. The school nurse sneered. Now go back before I report you for skipping class and wasting school property. We're closed. The stationery shop owner had growled at him. Piss off, kid. But please, Izuku had tears in his eyes. The sign says it's open another hour till you close. Instead, the shop owner grabbed the small boy by the collar and threw him out the door, ignoring little Izuku's pleas of, I have money, please, with a hiss of, I don't sell to people with stolen money, useless. They get meaner, Izuku echoed with a trembling affirmative. Very, very mean. Eri is now quiet, pondering hard as her thoughts no longer focus on her initial question nor her predicament. The boy needs saving, and Eri needs to be the boy's hero. So, even later on when the boy meets nice adults, he won't, Izuku gestures. He can't, you know. He'll be scared, Eri nodded, and Izuku was once again taken aback by the girl's ability to form conclusions. Yes, he admitted, which is why it makes him go to the bad place in his head. Oh, Eri mumbled. That's very sad, Deku. And maybe, Izuku added in an attempt to return to the initial conversation, maybe he'll get better not as scared, but every once in a while he would go to the bad place in his head because of adults. Like me, the little girl remarked in discernment, but her focus is no longer on herself. And it makes the things that make you go into the bad place, it makes them not look as weird anymore, right? Izuku tries to make sure. Yeah, Eri replied offhandedly before picking up a pencil to a new sheet of paper. Oh, can I also know some of the other things that make the boy scared? I don't want to make him go to a bad place in his head when I meet him. You want to meet him? Izuku asked in disbelief. Of course, Eri chirped. I want to be his hero, you see. Izuku chuckled at the irony of the situation, but replied nevertheless while trying to ground himself. He would think you're his hero, Eri. The green-haired student smiled softly, before the freckles on his cheeks seemed to dim as he slowly disassociates when he answers. Well, loud noises, heights only sometimes, and, dark places, crowded places, like malls, and maybe don't touch my... He tries to snap back to reality by concluding, don't suddenly touch his neck, I guess. If it weren't for his dissociative haze, Izuku would have noticed Eri furiously writing down what he said into a list. However, the white-haired girl simply stayed quiet and wrote down her stuff that makes the boy scared do not do list. She only piped up when Izuku was done talking. I was also scared when I went to the mall, Deku, Eri marveled. He's so much like me. You know, Deku, I used to get scared of people touching me too, remember? Right. Izuku tried to reply with matching enthusiasm. I remember now. He doesn't really. All he remembers was the small, trembling figure of a child, while he focuses on constantly breaking his bones through One for All at 100% as Eri's quirk was active. Oh, I can't wait to meet the boy, Deku, Eri gushed. He'll meet me when you send the letters, right? He would love to meet you, Eri, Izuku deflected. When he's ready, okay? When he's ready to tell you that he's been telling you pathetic sob stories of his younger self, Izuku added. Okay, Eri chimed as her little fingers began to pick up a new piece of paper and another colored pencil. It was silent for a while, Izuku calming himself down while Eri was entirely focused on her next hero plan for the boy. However, Izuku's curiosity got the better of him and he couldn't help but ask. Eri? Why do you want to meet him? I thought you wanted to send your letters to him. Well, Eri's hand stopped writing as she smiled brightly at the dumbfounded hero student. I have to meet him if I want to give him a big, big hug and be his hero. Oh. Izuku choked and hoped that he didn't sound like a person on the verge of tears. Is that so? The latter agreed and nodded and continued her writings. You know, Deku's stories about him make me feel less lonely because he's like me. Deku is my hero, so I want to help Deku and be the boy's hero now, too. Izuku knows that holding back tears until Aizawa-sensei came would be difficult, but maybe it is training in itself. Group chat, UA teachers. Hound Dog. Eraserhead, present Mike. In today's therapy session, Eri mentioned about wanting to meet a boy. Disclosure approved by her, by the way. Maybe you and Papa and Dad can help out, was what she said. Yamada Hizashi, present mic. Oh my God, show our baby. She's going to elope. Aizawa Shota, Eraserhead. She's 7. Stop pinging me. Yamada Hizashi. She's interested. In a boy. That's not Midoriya, a.k.a. your problem child. Do something, Sho. Hound Dog. Wait, no, not that way. She says something about being the boy's friend and being his hero, and how to make people go away from the bad place in their head, apparently. Aizawa Shota, Eraserhead. My daughter is becoming more and more like my problem child as of late. Now, Zashi, stop freaking out. I have a class to teach. Kayama Nomuri, Midnight. Just read the whole thing. Is anyone not going to comment on how Aizawa called Midoriya his problem child? Message has been deleted by user. Dad? Yes. Aizawa looks up from his student's classwork. I used to be scared of adults, right? I was even scared of you, remember? Yes. But now I'm not anymore. Not to the nice adults, I mean, right, Dad? Aizawa grunts in acknowledgement and eyes his daughter, who is currently busy doodling with something in green crayons. What? Mary paused her drawings as ruby eyes met his. What did you do to make me not scared of you anymore? On a piece of paper there's a drawing of Eri in a Lemillion/Deku fusion suit, which has childish writings of, Hero Eri will save you. Inbox. You've received a new email from Midoriya Inko. To Midoriya Izuku. Subject. This is my last email to you. Please let me live a happy life for once. Do not reply. Sender has changed address to Nakamura Inko. On July 4th, Midoriya Inko married Nakamura Jin and is pregnant with twins. Midoriya Inko is now Nakamura Inko, and this means that the last Midoriya is currently muffling his sobs in his dorm room at 11 p.m. in an attempt to not alert his dorm mates after reading his former mother's farewell. No. Abandonment message. Chapter 6. Hero 2. I'm a hero too. It was 4 o'clock in the morning when Eri saw Deku outside the teacher's dorms after her leaving her bedroom window. She couldn't sleep anymore, after all. She had slept during the day because she got too tired from going to the bad place in her head the day before. Thankfully, Izuku was far enough away for Eri not to notice the tear stains on his cheeks and puffy eyes. Unaware of his surroundings, he had neglected sleep and chose to continuously jog, wherever his feet seemed to take him since 2 a.m. in the morning. He's doing all he can to stop the malicious sneers of worthless, useless waste of space from engulfing his entire conscience. He's trying, he really is, but Izuku is teetering over the edge of a cliff, and his sanity is too focused on not breaking down in the middle of God knows where to notice Eri's light footsteps. Deku? He heard a soft voice pierce through the maelstrom in his head. Eri's voice snaps Izuku back. Assessing his surroundings, he sees the little girl standing slightly further away from the entrance of the teacher's dorms, in her sleepwear, holding a plushie and adorning a look in her eyes filled with an emotion that Izuku couldn't quite name due to his current distractions. Oh, Izuku cleared his throat. Eri, you're awake. After saying bye to you yesterday, I had a chat with Hound Dog Sensei. Eri pouted with her favorite unicorn plushie in her arms. And then I got tired and sleepy, so I slept. But I'm not sleepy anymore now. Then she looked at Deku really, really hard, and she asked in worry, You also can't sleep, Deku? Yeah, can't sleep. Izuku tries not to sound too broken. Many things in my head, I guess. And when he says many things, he means all the negative and self-deprecating thoughts that have been swirling since that email came. For the well-being of the children in my womb, I hope you understand that I cannot handle the stress of a son that constantly takes risks in his life in the Kiro course like you. Deku, Eri's voice is laced with concern. You're sad. He trails off. He needs to get whatever in his head off his chest before he continues to crumple in front of Eri. Let's sit down somewhere, okay? I want to tell you about the quirkless boy. When he sees Eri's mouth open to reply, he quickly added, But you don't have to if you don't want to. Of course I want to listen, Deku, Eri interjected, as she lifts her pointer finger to remind the green-haired boy. But you can't call him quirkless, okay? He's not quirkless anymore, remember? Someone gave him a quirk to borrow. At any other time, he would argue against that. However, Izuku simply motions towards a nearby bench and weakly replies, Let's sit there, okay? So they did. Eri sits on Izuku's lap with her head leaning on his chest, swinging her legs silently as Izuku's scarred hands run down her hair and her silverish locks glow under the nearby streetlight. It's a strategic position to prevent Eri from seeing his face. in case his tear glands fail him, which they do most of the time. Do you think, if the boy wants to be a hero, would you believe in him? He asked, trying to tone down the bitterness in his voice. Of course, Eri answered without missing a beat. I want to be a hero too, so I'll be his hero, and then we can all be heroes together, right? Well, if you tell Aizawa-sensei that you want to be a hero, what would he say? Oh, I've told Dad and Papa too. They really like my hero costume, you know. That's very nice. Izuku's eyes tear up as he smiles suddenly. It's a bittersweet feeling, knowing that you'll never get to have what someone else has, but you feel thankful that they wouldn't have to go through something you've experienced. He then continues. Nobody believed that he could be a hero. Nobody? Eri gasped. None, he echoed, with a forlorn gaze in his tear-soaked eyes. There wasn't anyone that believes in him like how your parents believe in you, Eri. Izuku couldn't help it anymore. For the next hour, the floodgates simply open as he tells Eri everything. How everyone seems to shatter his hopes and dreams, simply because of who he is. He told her how the boy's father left him far, far away, his presence vanishing without a trace the day after his toe joint X-ray results came in. How he hears whispers of, it makes sense, who would want a quirkless child anyway, when he walked around the neighborhood. His dad is very mean, Deku, Eri had remarked. Tell the boy that he can share Papa and Dad with me, okay? You would have to ask your family's permission for that, Eri. That includes your brother, too, was Izuku's counter-argument, fully aware of the unlikelihood of his teachers adopting him. The troublesome, problematic nuisance that was him, out of all the people. He thought back to that email again. My husband, Jin, arranged a prenatal quirk assessment for my children. I'll finally have 2 children with singular toe joints and quirks that'll manifest in time, Izuku. Then the dam continues to break. Izuku telling Eri bits and pieces of all the people who had told him he can't be a hero, how they told him to stop trying, how they reminded him of the futility of his dreams. Not even All Might, he thought, as Eri attentively listened to the boy, and how his favorite hero had told him to be realistic due to the boy's apparent quirklessness. I don't like that hero, Deku. That hero shouldn't be a hero anymore, Eri huffed. Well, the hero changed his mind later, Eri, Izuku stuttered out before mumbling, or else who would have given him the quirk in the first place? Did the hero ever say sorry? She demanded. The hero later told the boy that he could be a hero. That's not how you say sorry, Deku. Well, the hero helped inspire and help the boy out a lot, though. Jean and I agreed to each other that we will distance our children from heroism on my second attempt at parenting. I'll make sure that they will take more realistic, safe career paths and don't involve dying before achieving an unattainable dream in theirs. He then tells Eri about how the boy's hero idol's friends hates him. He tells her how the hero's friend constantly criticizes the boy and it's not worthy of holding the quirk in the first place, let alone be a hero, and how someone else should have taken his place instead. He has a point, though, Izuku points out. There are many people that could have borrowed the same quirk and be way better. He's wrong, Eri exclaimed. You're right, Deku. Everyone is so mean to the boy. Why can't they just talk to each other and say sorry, like the boy and his friend? To that, Izuku stays silent. After all, he knows very well there's no way to reconcile with the dead. Sir Night-Eye's words are merely another haunting ghost that he'll have to live with, like many other people's words that seem to tirelessly torment his very being. Money is not an issue with Jean. He simply wants you to not involve yourself in our lives. You have your happiness as a hero student, so let me finally have mine, okay? Finally, Izuku told her about the boy's mother, how he used to be the only person who wasn't mean to him and helped him become a hero, but she too, like many others, left and never believed that he could be one. She probably never believed in the first place, actually. But before the sun arises, and Aizawa-sensei can watch how Izuku pathetically breaks down in front of his 7-year-old daughter, Izuku promptly ends his story and tells her that he'll continue it another day. He hurriedly bids goodbye to Eri, tells her that he has to prepare for school, and simply breaks down into another fit of sobs once he enters his dorm again. Dear the brave boy, Eri wrote while hugging the present Mike plushie that Deku had given her. I asked Deku to ask you to send me a letter too, okay? I really want to be your friend. I promise I'm not mean, all right? I want to share my Papa and Dad with you. She glanced back at the dining table from where she's sitting near the living room. Papa, Dad, and Toshini seemed to be talking about something. She isn't hungry for breakfast yet, so she sits down on the table in front of the living room sofa, while the rest of the Eraser Mike family eats the first meal of their day. I promise you, they're very nice. My papa and dad are not like your mom and your dad, because my papa and dad are very, very nice, even though they're adults, she continues. Oh, don't listen to the mean people, okay? My papa and dad would definitely say you can be a hero. I think you can be a hero, too. It's Eri, Dad, and Eri perks up slightly when she hears Toshini say her name. Oh, she wants to know what Papa and Toshini are talking about. I don't know why you allow Midori, of all people, to spend so much time near her, she heard her brother say. Eri doesn't know why yet, but Toshini sounds hurt and sad. I thought Problem Child is fine, Dad replied. What's wrong, Toshi? She leans closer to the sofa chair and fully focuses on listening in. On the other hand, the three people eavesdropping, they continue their conversation, thinking Eri was too far away and distracted with her drawings to pay attention to the conversation at hand. He has such a heroic quirk, Dad. He's been trying to constantly pester me, and now he's using Eri, too. Toshini sounded angry. Deku? But Deku's not using her, though. Oh, Toshi, she heard Papa with his calming voice as always. Talk to us, okay? Why would you think that? He knows, Pops. He knows. Ugh. His quirk is suited for heroics, and he just has to try to buddy up with me. Like, I don't need his pity, and... Toshini continues talking to Papa and Dad, and, oh, Toshini is crying? A thought ran through her head. She went back to the letter that she was working on and added a small note under her letter to the boy. P.S. You know, my brother, Toshini, has less scars than you and me, but he's like us, too. He's not mean, and I think you two will be best friends. I think I want to practice being his hero first, so then I can be yours, too. The Eraser Mike couple had just finished calming down and helping their eldest son stop crying when they heard Eri exclaim as she walked closer to the dining room table. Toshini, her eyebrows furrowed with concern. You're sad. Oh, sweetheart. Hisashi tries to move closer to the younger child, worried she might become distraught due to eavesdropping on the conversation. Yes, baby, but... Before he could get near her, Eri has launched herself past her dad and Papa and straight to her brother, because Toshini kind of looks like Deku early today. To Eri, nothing else matters other than giving Toshini a tight, tight hug, similar to the hug she had always wanted to give to the boy ever since Deku told her about him. Toshini is not a villain, okay? People who call Toshini a villain are mean people. Eri, kitten. Shota started only to be cut off by the determined child. No, listen, please. Eri hugs her brother tighter before looking at Hitoshi with fire glazing in her eyes. Toshini, don't listen to the meanies, okay? You can be a hero, all right? I believe in you. You really can be a hero. Eri, Hitoshi is torn between panic and happiness. On the one hand, he's happy that Eri thinks he can be one, but his little sister, who has seen too much shit in her life than she should, is now burdened with knowing his shit, too. Please don't hide being sad from me. Eri's puppy eyes start to fill with tears. Please? Because it would hurt, and then you would think everyone is mean, and I want to help. I really, really want to, and... Breathe, kitten. Shota ran his hands on Eri's hair, trying to calm the panicking child with the help of his husband. Toshi has your papa and me. I promise we're helping him. Right, Toshi? Right. Hitoshi nods and joins his dad in an attempt to calm down his little sister. Pops and Dad are helping me, okay, Eri? I'm all right now. It did help her breathe again, but it didn't stop the soft, pained sniffles from the youngest family member. I know Toshini is okay, but... Eri sniffled before burying her face in her brother's chest. I want to help. I want to learn how to help. Toshini has Papa and Dad, but... But what, Eri? Hitoshi probed further when Eri's voice went small. But the boy, this person I want to help, Eri continued. This person I know doesn't have anybody like Papa and Dad, and I want to try helping Toshini so I can help the boy, because he also thinks he can't be a hero, and oh... Eri paused when she realized everyone was quiet. Is this bad? Are you angry? No, not at all, baby, Hisashi reassured. We're listening, okay? So you know this boy? He motions for her to continue. And people also think the boy can't be a hero. I know. Eri nodded before an idea flashed through her head. Toshini, you and the boy can be friends, and then we can all be hero partners together. The boy? Hitoshi asked, confused. The boy! I know a lot about him. And what's the boy's name? Shota asks, clearly remembering Hound Dog's chat yesterday. Oh, Eri blushed. Deku didn't tell me the boy's name. Problem child told you about this boy? Shota paused before rephrasing. Deku, I mean, he introduced you to the boy. Yes, but I haven't met the boy, though, Eri mused before adding, but I will soon. You haven't met him, Hitoshi paused. But you know him? Yeah, Eri nodded, excited to be introduced to the boy, her brothers as well, so they can be friends. Deku's been telling me stories about him, but I haven't met him yet because the boy gets scared easily, especially with adults, you know. A boy who fears adults, the other three pondered. What has Midoriya been telling Eri? There's something in Shota's gut that tells him to probe further into the girl's story. First of all, this is a boy that Eri is interested in, other than his problem child. Second, Shota has suspicions that there's more to the story than it seems. Kneeling down and facing his daughter eye to eye, the dark-haired man slowly speaks to her. Eri. He picked up the little girl from Hitoshi's arms, and her red eyes are now focused on Shota. Can Papa, your brother, and I hear this story? Yeah, Hitoshi added. Who would want to miss out on finally confronting Midoriya to stay away from Eri? What if we sit down on the sofa, and I would love to hear you tell us about the boy? Yeah, let's talk about him. Shota hopes he doesn't scare the child. Instead, the girl happily nods. Of course, Eri replied with ease. I was going to tell you about him anyway, especially for Toshini. Why especially for Toshi, Sweet Pea? Hisashi asked, wondering if Midoriya is secretly a child therapist or something. Oh, because Toshini probably also knows the boy? Eri's head tilted, 7-year-old logic working. Because the boy is Deku's friend, you see. Also, when I feel sad or lonely, Deku will tell me stories about the boy, and then I'll feel less lonely, and have more ideas on how to be the boy's hero. Thus, the family sat on the living room sofa, unaware of the realization that they will soon come to realize when the story is done. So, Eri started, there is a sad boy who thinks he's worthless. Chapter 7. Stories do help. So, there's a sad boy who thinks he's worthless. The family knows how Eri could remember things to a terrifying detail, especially if she's focused and interested in it. This is their current position, in a Racer for Mike family cuddle pile, with Eri stroking their pet cat, in the middle of said cuddle pile as Eri recounted her past conversations with her favorite hero student. No one is worthless, Eri, Shota sighed. I know, right? Eri agreed, but Deku said the boy felt that way because he was quirkless. The word itself may have caused her ears to tense up, but it's almost unnerving to Shota how easy and fluid the word flows from the little girl's mouth, especially considering her lack of exposure to the world. The explicit meaning of quirkless itself may simply be a person who lacks a quirk, but the implicit meaning of quirkless comes with many issues. Years of experience as an underground hero and in many suicide prevention centers is enough for Shota and Hisashi to know what that word means. The suicidal, abused, neglected, and dehumanized minority. Quirkless, Hitoshi reconfirms, trying to fish out how the girl knew the word. Oh, right. You probably never met a quirkless person before, right, Toshini? Eri simple-minded misinterpreted her brother's confusion at his lack of knowledge in what the word means, just like before, how Deku had explained it to her. So, a quirkless person is a person who has no quirk, like we have powers but the boy doesn't. Deku said it's normal to not know, though. How would Midoriya, of all people, know about that, though? Hitoshi inquired, trying to hold back a scoff. The problem child's quirk manifested late, Shota recalled. I guess it makes sense for him to know about quirklessness. It also checks out, Hisashi added, tapping a finger to his chin. If the boy's Midoriya's friend, maybe they met through a quirkless community. Eri hummed. What does manifest late mean? Well, Hisashi responded, when you first start to show your quirk, that's called manifesting. Most start showing their quirks when they're 4 or 5 years old. When you say someone's quirk manifests late, Shota continued, it means their quirk showed up later than normal, so problem child probably manifested his quirk when he's your age, maybe 7 or 8. So that's why Deku knows people can be mean to quirkless people? Probably, Shota nodded, taking the new information in while glancing at Hitoshi, who is now quietly pondering and deep in thought. But that means that the boy and Deku are quirkless at my age? Eri's eyebrows furrowed once more as she tilted her head. Or they were quirkless until your age, Sweet Pea. Hisashi nodded. That doesn't make sense, though, Eri corrected. Deku said the boy never met a quirkless person before. That's why the boy felt so lonely. After sharing a confused look with his husband, Shota held back his desire to point out the contradiction. Instead, he decided to ask Eri, We'll sort that out later, once the whole story is finished. How about that? Oh, Eri chirped. Okay, so the lonely boy said he must hide and that he was being sad because... And Eri began recounting the stories that Deku had told her almost word for word, like she had it all written down and memorized. She also showed the other her 3 cards, artworks, and letters that they soon learn are to be sent to the boy when she meets Midoriya again. As each piece of artwork was shown and each letter was read out loud, suspicions continued to rise, things pointing to a direction they don't like. Midoriya Izuku knows too much sensitive information about this boy's personal life to be a friend. When Eri recounts the story surrounding her very first card to the boy, Hisashi couldn't help but worry about this boy's mental state. The way Eri describes the boy's sadness and how everybody's mean to the boy sounds very much like an attempt to hide mental health issues and illness. It had taken Eri herself quite some time to learn that repressing emotions does more harm than good, and that's with the help of a very supportive UA community. Hisashi couldn't fathom the increased difficulty of handling the boy's mental health in the middle of a stigmatized society, especially due to quirklessness. When talking and taking out a drawing made by her and Koda, Eri told them, "You know, even his best friend was so mean to him for a long time. Deku taught me to talk with my friends when we are fighting with each other, just like that time with me and Koda-kun." Then she continued talking about the boy's conflict with his friend. To this, Hitoshi couldn't help but think of his initial confusion about Bakugo and Midoriya. When Hitoshi brought up his assumption and envy on how the two were simply rivals with good quirks, Todoroki gave him a cold, hard glare, as Uraraka simply shook her head with a wistful smile. "It's not rivalry, Shinzo-kun, but it's better than what it was before, in the early days of 1A. Hitoshi remembered her sighing. "It's more simple than childhood rivalry, in both good and bad ways. No one other than the two of them knows exactly what they are." "Oh, this one's my favorite," Eri gushed, eyes sparkling as she showcased her 3rd letter. "Remember when I asked about glitter pens for my skin, Papa? The boy has many scars, too. When I meet him, I want to draw happy smiles and sparkles around them." On the bottom of her letter, there are sets of drawings of a very familiar scarred arm. Those types of scars only come from unhealed skin cells due to torn muscle tissue under said skin, and there's only one person they know who has a quirk that could cause such a scar. As the eraser-my couple looked at each other, they concluded that it's either their imagination or Eri's drawing a very childish rendition of Aizawa Shota's beloved problem child's arm. No one dared to voice out their suspicions and musings, not until Shota himself speaks up. "Eri, kitten, I'm going to cut you off right there for a bit." He hesitates, and God, he hopes he's wrong, and he hopes he's the crazy one. If I say the boy is Deku, does that make sense to you?" "I was going to ask the same thing, Sho." Hisashi stared at his husband with conflict evident in his eyes. "But why?" Eri's mind hadn't caught up yet with their logic. "That drawing, kitten," Shota explained. "That drawing of yours is very much like Deku's arm. I think... How do you know what the boy's scar looks like?" "Deku showed me from his phone," Eri answered. "But only his arm, though. Also, Dad, Deku's not the boy. He's probably the one who's shared his quirk with the boy." "Well, baby..." Hisashi backtracked a little when her words fully processed in his mind. "Wait, shared a quirk?" "Yep. Deku told me the boy's scars come from borrowing someone's quirk," was Eri's reply as she explains. "That's why he's the boy, and not the quirkless boy, and that's why he has scars." "That's not how quirks work, Eri," Hitoshi pointed out as Eri looked at him and made a confused noise. Shota flinched and thought about the quirk apprehension test. That was why Midoriya's his problem child in the first place, the boy who always broke his bones. His initial thoughts of Midoriya were that it was due to a lack of quirk practice, and he thought his problem child didn't have enough motivation to catch up on his missing 2 years of quirk usage. But as time passes by, Shota has been noting the peculiarity of that assumption, as Midoriya Izuku is one of the most, if not the most, hard-working student in his class. In fact, Shota spends more time trying to stop him from practicing, rather than the opposite. "But the boy borrowed a hero's quirk, and Deku is the boy's hero," she reminded. "That's why the boy has scars, Toshini. The borrowed quirk hurts him when he uses it, remember?" No, none of them remembers, but what Shota remembers is a particular conversation he'd almost forgotten between his problem child and Bakugo when he eavesdropped on him, initially aiming to make sure that they weren't actively trying to kill each other when no one else was in 1A, the dorms, during their house arrest. "Talk about it to Aizawa-sensei, nerd," was the beginning of a conversation he picked up on. "Yes, All Might Sensei says it's okay, but..." Then what are you waiting for? Endeavor to become a professional figure skater or some shit. No, but it's hard, Kachan, and it's terrifying. You know what? He heard Katsuki say. When he comes up to you, you fucking tell him. No more lying about this shit in the first place. It's All Might, Shota realized, eyes wide. The strange closeness between All Might and his problem child makes more sense now. Now Shota isn't stupid. In fact, contrary to the UA teachers' eccentricity and their colorful personalities, there's a certain level of intelligence required to work under the most intelligent mammal on Earth. And in the fact that Shota is the homeroom teacher of the top hero school's main hero class, it's just logical that Shota's intelligence is one of the many decisive factors that resulted in him teaching 1A. Everything seems to click too well in place. Shota's revelation seems something so obvious, but was so well hidden at the time. The bits and pieces of clues were there, from the whispers in the underground world, the way Midori Izuku's medical information was too empty before he entered UA, and the way his problem child acts so much as a whole, but Eri's story is the final clue that finally pulls Shota into his awareness. What's with All Might Sensei? It's Hitoshi this time who couldn't build the connection with his dad's reasoning. You told me how Problem Child's quirk is heroic because he's like a mini All Might, Shota shuddered. And that's not just a coincidence, Toshi. What do you mean? Oh, Hisashi whispered. When I overheard the 1A kids talking about Midoriya crying when All Might said you're next back at All for One. Those weren't happy tears, Zashi. Shota held back a curse. I've heard rumors underground, rumors about... There's more to my problem child than I know, and it's hurting him, Zashi. He focused back on Eri, who he realized is tensed up and quiet. Eri, are you okay? I'm okay, Eri hesitated, but if Deku really is the boy... She gasped sharply, tears welling up in her eyes as she frantically let out an, "Oh no." The Katamile immediately breaks up, Shota holding the girl in case her quirk goes haywire as they try to calm her down. Shh, Eri, look at me. Breathe, it's okay. Shota runs his hands through her locks of hair in an attempt to ground her, only to be pushed away as Eri starts wailing while staring at her dad with desperation in her eyes. I am breathing, but no, we have to help Deku, she hiccuped. We have to help him right now. He has many scars, Dad, Eri shrieked, and he thinks that they're ugly on bad days. It means that Deku's scared of adults because they get meaner when he asks for help. Nobody believes that he can be a hero, Papa. Even his favorite hero said he couldn't. It took minutes to calm Eri down, but the things that the little girl cried out in her panic state make the older family members worried for the green-haired student even more. She's right. The boy, Izuku, needs help and support, and he needs it very much. God knows if the kid has ever gotten anything in semblance of supportive community before UA. So we're going with this, Hitoshi reconfirmed once Eri has calmed down. The idea that Midoriya has been telling modified versions of his own personal life to Eri. I hope it's modified, Hisashi sighed, frowning at how much support the green-haired listener needed that he isn't getting. I can't imagine how he's coping with all of this. You have his mother's contact, right, Sho? Another sharp gasp was heard from Eri. Oh shit, what else? And she ran through the three's hot thoughts as well. Eri, what's wrong? Hisashi asked. This early morning, Eri tried to hold back a sniffle. This morning I saw Deku look really, really sad, and he told me the boy's mom threw him away. Fuck, Hitoshi cursed under his breath. Language, Toshi, Shota instinctively reprimanded. But yeah, what you said. It's still very early when Shota walked into the entrance of 1A dorms, with Hitoshi trailing behind him. Shota doesn't usually do this, but he needs to, especially after the talk and discovery that the family made this morning. At the dorm's entrance, he saw the spiky blonde hair of 1A's resident explosive student, looking tense but also worried. Shota pushed back his thoughts of comparing Bakugo to a restless Pomeranian at that. Bakugo hadn't noticed him yet, so Shota walked up to him and greeted him. Bakugo. Who the fuck? Katsuki was ready to growl and snap until he realized who was calling him and immediately relaxed. Sensei. It's early, Shota pointed out as he glanced at a nearby clock. A little more than 2 hours until school starts. You're here, Bakugo retorted. Too fucking early to be here too, Sensei. I'm looking for Problem Child. Shota got straight to his point. Stop fucking calling him that, Bakugo snapped before Shota heard him muttering to himself. Why can't teachers stop fucking labeling the nerd that? Realizing that Aizawa-sensei is actually one of the only people who can help soothe his worries for Izuku, Katsuki conceded and continued. I need your help with Deku, Katsuki bursts out. And, the shitty nerd better be fine after all this. Something's fucking wrong with the nerd. He's in his dorm now? Shota inquired. No, the spiky blonde grumbled. Skipped our jog session this morning. Didn't want to talk and just fucking told me that he had to get to class while running away. This early? Hitoshi interrupts the conversation and alerts Bakugo of his presence. Fuck off, Katsuki hissed as he lectured the purple-haired jackass. Deku fucking hates loud and crowded places, like how it is when all these idiots wake up. Get ready and shit. So he goes to the classroom because it's fucking peaceful and quiet. So shut the fuck up, mindfucker, because it's too fucking early for your ritual of shitting on Deku like you always do. Before even Hitoshi could retort back a reply, Shota intercepted with a, go back to your dorm room and get ready, Hitoshi. I'll go to my When he saw Bakugo's glare, he coughed. Midoriya. I'll go to Midoriya and check up on him. The explosive blonde simply just stomped back to his dorm room angrily, leaving the father-son duo dumbfounded at the entrance. Shota glanced at his son, who was currently muddled in his own thoughts, and guilt probably, and patted him reassuringly. You have some things to think about, don't you, Toshi? Yeah, his son sighed. All this time I've been... Ugh. He shook his head and stared at Shota. You're right. I need time and space to think about all this. Good idea, Shota nodded. Let me take care of my... Midoriya, okay? We'll settle your thoughts on this later. Yeah, Hitoshi whispered back as the two parted ways. Oh, Toshi? Yeah, Dad? Tell your classmates that the first 2 class periods are in dorm practice and study instead. The classroom is off limits. Now, time to take care of Shota's other kid. Izuku's just distracting himself by writing notes in the desolate silence that is the 1A classrooms. He's checked his phone camera, and now he's cheery enough. His slightly red and puffy eyes can be excused by saying that he didn't sleep enough. He'll just tell his classmates that he got too focused on studying or something to avoid suspicion. His current task is to study and calm himself down for the next hour or so, before the early students, like Kachan and Ida, enter the classroom. If all else fails, he'll just hide in one of the toilet stalls and tell people that he's not feeling well. Izuku expects some questions from his classmates, and Izuku fully expects Kachan to corner him and ask about what is actually wrong, but Izuku didn't expect Aizawa-sensei to be the first person to walk in. When the tear-stricken hero student has finally finished drying his tears after another failed attempt on calming himself down. Midoriya. The phrase problem child almost left his lips, and he mentally smacked himself. Aizawa Shota, the teacher reprimanded himself. Problem child may seem like an endearment to you, Shota, but imagine how many times people have used it on the kid to verbally abuse him. Huh? Oh, Sensei, Izuku sputters and drops the pen that he's holding in a panic. Sorry, just let me... He bends down to pick up his pencil, but knocks his head on the side of his table with a harsh bang when trying to look up. Ow, sorry. He winced in pain, but he had to greet the older man nevertheless. Good morning. Shota notices how Izuku is still trying to stand up and pretend like banging your head that hard wasn't a concern. Call it confirmation bias, but so many things make sense now, in an alarmingly apprehensive way. Shota realizes that what he used to think as simply the child's timid nature was actually the result of many, many years of neglect and abuse from his surroundings. His kid, the student he holds closest to his heart, even closer than Hitoshi at many times, has lost so much trust in any semblance of an authority figure that he has probably given up on the idea that someone, anyone, is willing to help or support him at all. Sit down, okay? Shota started, delicately trying to sound as soothing and non-threatening as he can. Izuku immediately sits down as fast as he could, an ingrained habit of simply obeying whatever they ask you to do, to avoid more punishments. Sneaking a glance from his tilted-down head, Izuku felt Aizawa-sensei's presence move as the dark-haired hero teacher had sat down on Bakugo's chair, the seat in front of Izuku's, and he stayed quiet. Trembling, Izuku steeled himself to face whatever consequences his teacher would give him, because Izuku is always wrong, and teachers are always right about their punishments. Realizing his anxiety is slowly taking over his system again, he shook his head slightly and bit his lip. No, Izuku, he convinced himself. The person in front of him is not a teacher. Aizawa-sensei is Aizawa-sensei. He's different, Izuku. Not a teacher. Aizawa-sensei is a hero. Meanwhile, Shota is taking in the gut-wrenching sight in front of him. No one is supposed to look so broken. And it hurts Shota to think that the pain and the struggle Izuku had gone through. His kid's eyes are red and puffy with dark eye bags under them that couldn't simply be caused by skipping sleep for a night. His kid is shaking slightly, and it Took all of Shota's willpower not to immediately try and comfort his distressed child, worried that he'll flinch away and register Shota's touch as a danger. Izuku's hands are trembling fully, and Shota's observant eyes notice the patches of red and uneven skin around his nails. The child must have picked on it in an attempt to calm himself, and, oh, Izuku's picking on them again now. Worried that his poor kid might pick his fingers too hard and bleed, Shota grabs Izuku's hands, even if he notices how the boy flinched away from his touch. They're all the same, Izuku's anxious mind had wailed. Can't trust him, can't trust anyone, not anymore, and never will. Midoriya, Shota urged softly. Something about Aizawa-sensei's voice, something about his presence, grounds Izuku enough to form coherent words and not fully shut down or disassociate, even if Izuku knows that he's in trouble again and being a hassle. Why hasn't Aizawa-sensei yelled at him yet? Why isn't Aizawa-sensei saying anything? What else? Aizawa-sensei is not giving him any instruction whatsoever, so what is Izuku supposed to do? What else should Izuku do to simply get over this? I know I'm in trouble, the green-haired babbled. Maybe Aizawa-sensei is the type that wants him to admit it out loud. It was very foolish of me. Yes, I'm stupid that way, and Midoriya. Shota tries to interject. I know that I'm very difficult to deal with, and oh, Izuku's eyes widen more when he realizes. It's my stories to Eri, isn't it? Yes, kid, but I'm so sorry, Izuku blabbered as he swallowed down one of the sobs that tried to leave his throat. I'll accept any punishments from this. I shouldn't have done that, and I promise I'll fix it. I won't even get near Eri at all. A sob escaped the frazzled young boy as he whimpered weakly. Just don't expel me. Just don't throw me away, please. Shota once told Zashi that he doesn't believe in the existence of the so-called Dadzawa Protect alarms. However, Zashi is right. Such a thing exists because Shota hears them blazing right off in his head. Shit, he thought. His kid is one of, if not the most, top-performing student in the class. The hero class that has probably faced the most villains attacks in UA history and thus has the most rigorous program UA has ever had in years. And the top default candidate for UA's next big three is still worried about expulsion. Shota is more and more convinced that this is more than mild anxiety. His plan to propose mandatory therapy sessions to Nezu was delayed due to the Shie Hisaike case and Eri's arrival, but Shota knows that the change must be done as soon as possible if he wants to see his kid recover. Izuku, Shota tries again. Look at me, please. He has to hold back a wince when he sees how much fear is in Izuku's eyes as the boy tries to look away again. Hey, look at me, the older man soothed as he stares right into Izuku's eyes. I'm not mad, okay? You've done nothing wrong here, you hear me? I'm here to be with you, not against you. When Izuku obeys and looks at his teacher, no, Aizawa-sensei in the eyes, he was not expecting the kindness that he's seeing from Aizawa. He looks at him with genuine concern, and he feels Aizawa-sensei's thumb rubbing his palm in comforting circular motions, providing enough comfort while not breaching too much into his personal space. Different, see? The quiet voice of Izuku's sanity whispered, now audible and not muffled by the screeching forms of a panicked voice. Aizawa-sensei is not the same as the others. Even if he's sensei, he's not a teacher. He's not like a teacher at all, so it's safe. Safe and safe. The last time such care and worry was directed on Izuku, his mind wandered again from his mom, or at least the thought of his mom, his former mother. Oh, Zuku. Shota can pinpoint precisely when Izuku's anxiety breaks the boy's slightly calmed down self. It was all instinct the moment he sees his kid break down in front of him, and he hears a pained sob from the fragile child as well. Raising a hand to caress Izuku's cheek, he wipes away the tears that have slipped through. What's probably Izuku's attempt not to cry. Shota stands up and kneels slightly to Izuku's side, so there's no table separating the two as he asks, I'm gonna get close and hug you, okay? Yes, Izuku sniffled, letting out a quiet, please, at the end. The older man pulls Izuku into a soothing hug as the two sink to the floor in a tight, comforting embrace. Izuku bites his lip hard to make sure that he can keep his tears at bay, but Aizawa-sensei's soft caresses on his messy hair and the soothing circles on his back make it more difficult than it already is. Izuku's mind is torn into two warring parts. One part is utterly refusing to allow Aizawa-sensei to deal with any more problematic messes that Izuku's himself involved in, while the other part is wailing and crying out for touches, for attention, for love that Izuku has craved for God knows how long. One part wants to believe and trust that the erasure hero, who has never once broken said trust, but another part irrationally doesn't want to get hurt again in such close succession. Izuku, you hear me? Shota murmured to the boy, who is still quiet the whole time. Shota shifts backward to lean against the nearby wall, lightly running his hands on the boy's scalp. The process of trusting someone again after what Izuku has experienced is slow and painful, but Shota is holding on to the sliver of hope that Izuku trusts him enough to allow Shota to help him. He receives a small nod, and Shota's heart aches for the nth time for the day because his kid felt so small and hurt, and Shota hates the fact that he can't do anything to take it all away. That's good, Shota cooed. I've told others to stay in the dorms for the next 2 periods, okay? It's just you and me, no one else. The gears in Shota's mind pulled him back to a memory of his early experience of knowing Eri, who had a severe case of emotional repression. So, let it out, okay? I'll listen. It's bad to bottle it all up, you hear me? I'm here for you. That's what they all say, came a choked whimper. They said they'll be there, but they lied, and they left. Shota breaks the hug slightly and looks Izuku in the eyes. Oh, his poor kid was never allowed to be openly honest and vulnerable. The person in his arms is no longer simply the promising sunshine bright hero student. Instead, it's a woeful display of a small broken child who never fully knew safety nor the comfort of first-hand knowledge in anything resembling a normal childhood at all. It threw Shota's rational fear far out of the window as his entire being is now focused on Izuku, his star student, his problem child, his kid, his very own child that needs parental love, and Shota is more than willing to give it. Maybe they do, but I won't, and I never, ever will. His eyes pierce deep into the green ones. The rest of the world and its people can leave and turn their backs, but I'll stay and listen and believe in you no matter what. You'll change your mind later on, like how they all did, the child said. I always mess things up, and you'll get tired of putting up with me. Oh, but Izuku. A pet name almost left Shota's lips, but he reassessed himself and quickly continues his initial thoughts with a tenacity that he himself is surprised with. There is nothing that you can do that will ever change the fact that I'm with you, okay? Nothing at all. But why would you? Shota heard the boy breathe out as Izuku fails to hold back a single tear from escaping. No one has ever stayed, so why would anyone else? Because you're you, Izuku. Shota answers in complete honesty because he doesn't know if his kid would believe him if he says it any other time. You are precious, and you deserve love and care and support. You deserve to be heard and be comforted. You deserve to be encouraged when you feel down instead of bottling up your fears due to the feelings that you feel like you can't show. You're my problem child. Mine. My child. And when people hurt you, push you down, and tear apart your dreams. He takes a deep breath before continuing. You deserve people who, regardless of what happens, will stand by your side, believe in you, and bring you back up, because I know you're worth fighting for, Izuku. He pulled the child back into a tight hug as the floodgates opened, and Izuku breaks and breaks and breaks. Sensei! Izuku's body shakes with each sob. It hurts. It does. Aizawa continues to rub soothing circles on the boy's back. And it's okay to hurt. It hurts so much, Sensei. I can't. It's okay, kid. Let it all out, all right? But it never hurt this much. Never this way. Because you keep it down for so long, and it's painful, Shota soothed. I'll stay with you through it, so take your time, kid. Cry it out. Say things, heck, summon your inner Bakugo and curse out the world if that's what you feel like doing. You won't like the things I say, Izuku sobbed and chuckled. And I'll tell you when I don't, but I won't make it. None of it will make me leave you, or believe in you any less. The two of them stayed that way for a long time. Shota leaned to the classroom wall with Izuku in his arms as sobs racked through the boy's body. All the shaking and hitched breaths made Izuku seem so small, so fragile and so hurt. It felt like seeing Eri when they'd handled her nightmares, but much, much worse, and fuck. The words spilling out of the boy's mouth didn't help, as it made clear that he never once lied to Eri. His kid's life has been this messed up, and the clues were right under their noses the whole time. The first time I told my story to Eri, Izuku had told him in a fit of sobs, I was awake because of a horrible nightmare, and I saw myself in her. Izuku hiccuped and took a breath before continuing. I didn't fit, and it made me feel so lonely. Everyone, Sensei, they either treat me as a person they can harass and get away with, or they simply turn a blind eye and pretend I don't exist. It wasn't until All Might and UA and the quirk. About that, kid. We need to have a conversation about you and All Might, Shota pointed out. Maybe not today, but come to me when you feel comfortable enough, all right? Then I'll tell you now. Izuku took a deep breath before glancing around. If only the classroom was safe enough to disclose high-level secrets. It is, actually. No way, Aizawa-sensei. It's a special addition to the 1A classrooms only, Shota sighed, because we're regular villain targets. Probably because of me, Izuku mumbled. He took a deep breath and opened up for the second time today, this time telling Aizawa everything. For the first time since he was 5, Izuku allowed himself to just be open and honest. He tells the older man about how he was quirkless until the age of 15, tells Aizawa-sensei how he's scared, how his younger self had learned the hard way that repressing feelings is the safest route from some of the cruelties of life, how he once tried to share his feelings only to be scolded and dismissed again and again. He tells how he obtained a quirk from the same hero that had brought so much despair and hope in just a single day. He told you what? Shota hissed as he tightened his embrace. On top of a fucking roof, kid. But like I said, Izuku tried to weakly protest, later on after I meddled with Kacchan and that villain, All Might Sensei told me, You were saving Bakugo. Shota sighed in disbelief, and All Might didn't ask a single medic around to check up on you, who jumped at the villain first. Izuku, you were a hero before even UA. They probably thought I was in their way. I'm not really hero-looking, Sensei, came the sheepish reply. It wasn't only All Might, anyway. Other heroes, too, like Sir Night-Eye. The underground hero listened to Izuku, tearing up every once in a while, about how it's normal to think that he's not hero material. Shota isn't the type to envy other people's quirks, however. A quirk that lets him punch ghosts, dead spirits, or whatever would be amazing to have right now. Because what the fuck was Night-Eye thinking? Please tell me you had quirk therapy, Shota said when the thought crossed his mind. What? Never mind. He cursed under his breath before diverting the younger's attention. What happened next? Izuku was trembling slightly when he recounted his life before UA. Everyone seemed to simply ignore him for his quirklessness. His classmates seemed up to middle school would use him as a lab rabbit for their quirks, and teachers wouldn't care. Bakugo told you to what? Shota growled, pupils turning red as his quirk activated for a few seconds. It was peer pressure, Sensei, Izuku added. They let children with good quirks do as they please, and Kacchan was never really properly taught any social cues. I didn't either. He paused and let out a wistful smile. Kacchan didn't see anything wrong with saying what the adults whispered about me straight to my face. When he realized his mistake, he was already in UA, and he thought it was too late. It's still suicide baiting, kid. He needs anger management lessons. Kacchan was going to talk to you about that, actually, but I told him to wait until after Eri's case, and maybe after I was brave enough to talk to you. Izuku trails off. He's probably the only one who still believes that I can be a hero because... Izuku was a glass that had been broken into shards. He completely crumbled to dust when he whimpered about how his mother, who he thought is always with him, so supportive, completely distanced herself from him and has completely disappeared from his life, abandoning him at a young age with the knowledge that his former mother's affection was merely a facade. Since when? I didn't really, Izuku stuttered. She stopped coming home around the sports festival, but she left money and essential stuff. I submitted the UA dorms form using the stamp of her signature. This time Izuku couldn't finish his story. He was utterly sobbing when he tries to tell Aizawa about the contents of the email that he received last night. Izuku wants to tell Aizawa-sensei, but the words that he tried to utter left his lips in the form of incoherent whimpers, so Izuku took out his phone, gave it to his teacher to read a couple of flicks on the screen, and continued to cry into the arms of the adult who he could let himself trust. Shota had to reread certain parts of said email, as he often gets lost in the anger towards the woman, and society in general. Focusing on quelling the flames of fury that stirred within him, Shota proceeded to counter each self-deprecating comment that the green-haired teen had made with what the boy is supposed to hear all the time. Maybe I shouldn't have been here, Sensei. You belong here, Izuku. You're meant to be here, kid. She's right. Maybe I was never meant to be a... You are a hero, Izuku. You already are. Even before your actions for Eri. Before you reached out to Ida when Stain happened. Even before you stood in front of Uraraka against the zero-pointer, or in front of Bakugo against the slime villain. You've been a hero this whole time. I'm just a Deku, Sensei. I'm the one who cannot. I'm the useless waste of space. Your Deku means Dekiru. You're the one who can. The precious, strong, and brave child who shines bright and inspires everyone around you. When Shota finally finished reading the entire email, he noticed that the green-haired boy has cried himself to sleep, which makes sense considering Izuku probably didn't sleep last night. While he's about to go into a fit of rage, he needs to talk about many things with Nezu and Hisashi too later today. Shota packs up his kids' belongings, places them on top of the boy's sleeping figure, and carries Izuku in his arms out of the classroom. The rest of the world be damned. His child's safety and happiness holds him the most importance right now. Dear my hero Eri, hello, we meet at last, I guess. Thank you, my little hero, for being there and listening to me when I tell stories to you. Thank you, Eri, for telling and reminding me that the boy isn't worthless, and for believing that I can be a hero. You are my hero too, Eri. You told me that people were wrong when I'm too scared to say it, and I'm glad that you're my friend. From now on, let's be heroes for each other, okay? I'll be your hero and you'll be mine. The hero boy Deku. P.S. You're right. Your papa and dad are not mean, even when they're adults. I would love to share your parents with you. The letter is kept in the same box where Eri keeps all her stuff for Deku, the boy. Placing her box next to a pile of papers about serious adult stuff, she knows what adopt means, but what does license and protocol mean? She happily skipped towards the living room sofa. There sat Deku, wearing a tank top and scarred arms are exposed, his box of temporary tattoo marking pens, placed next to Eri's box of skin-safe glitter pens and stickers. You ready? He chuckles when he sees the little girl vibrating with excitement. Eri replied with eyes sparkling brighter than the green-colored glitter pen that she's currently holding. Yes. This concludes Eri and Deku's story time. I really like this one a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And as always, thank you all so much for listening.